That's what I do, and then years later, revenge, isn't it?
Hello and welcome to the Video Gamer UK podcast. My name is Chris Bratt, and today I am joined by some lovely faces from the Video Gamer team. We finally tempted him back onto the podcast. Stephen Burns.
Yeah.
You right?
Yeah.
Good. That's the kind of enthusiasm and...
You make it sound like I've deliberately been away, Bratters, when actually I've been working. I've been reviewing the biggest and best video games, while you've been sitting here chatting a load of bollocks.
He's football crazy and chocolate mad. It's Brett Hips.
Hello.
It's literally the only thing I know about football, that advert. Can you remember what that was?
It was Power Pods.
Power Pods.
Yeah.
That was it.
They're brilliant.
That was it. And Jim, I love video game conventions, Trinker, in the corner over there.
I spent my Saturday with Brat. Didn't have to.
You don't socialise with work people at weekends. That's an error of
I know.
judgment.
I know.
Yeah. You got to see the real Bratters.
I saw Burns on Saturday as well. That was fine.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Special guest.
Brat was there as well.
The mask comes off. Bratters is real. That's when, you know...
I spend, sometimes I go out and spend, Fridays with Bratters, after work. We go into Clapham Junction, where all the rest of the world's cunts are. And, we're among our own. And, it's generally okay, but that's because the main place we go is so loud and obnoxious.
You can't hear me.
I'm fitting perfectly, and B, I just can't hear anything Bratters is saying. I'm usually just laughing hysterically in his face anyway.
This is good.
So
thanks for that.
He's talking about XCOM Long War and you're just in his face.
a lot of times he's talking
Cackling.
about
XCOM Long War is
King of
superb.
Dragon Pass. Is that what it's called?
Another fun
I'm
game.
surprised I managed to pull that out of
That's
my
actually
brain
a thing. You didn't just make that up.
Yeah, just usually chatting
It's
away.
a good thing as well. Just check it out.
And then he finishes a sentence and he's like, I'm going to go back to the bar and get a flagon of ale for my friend Stephen Burns.
Meanwhile, I'm laughing and trying to climb out of a window. Yes, quite.
All right, Steve, thank you for that. I appreciate it a lot.
Don't worry, man.
Now you're finally back here amongst your friends on the podcast. What are these big games that you've been playing? What's the latest big video game?
The latest one.
Is that one that you can't talk about?
Well,
possibly?
I mean, I've been playing big budget space based hide and seek 'em up.
I haven't heard of it.
No, it goes by another name in Europe.
Is it a little indie thing, yeah?
Yeah. It's a tiny budget game. You'd never know it was coming out.
All right.
But it's pretty fucking good. Yeah. So, I mean, just keep your eye out on Friday. Or maybe I'll say something else about it. Maybe I'll write words down.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to that. Okay,
Yeah.
what have you been playing that you can't talk
Destiny,
about? Destiny.
Forza.
Yep.
Yeah. At first, Forza was so boring, I actually fell asleep. Dave came into the games
I've
room.
heard about this.
And I was adjusting tyre ratios or some shit, and I just fell asleep.
Jesus.
So
this work you've been doing when you haven't been in the podcast,
I was
right?
only asleep for
Let's talk about that a bit more.
It was like one of those micro sleeps, like when truck drivers have been driving too long and then they fall asleep and smash into an orphanage or some shit. So I mean,
Jesus fucking Christ.
Everyone's working hard. Maybe they're working too hard.
It was only micro because Dave walked in. It would have been macro had he not.
Yeah,
like 3 hours later.
That's the reason I've not been on the podcast. I've just woken up.
Yeah.
But Forza turned out to be actually quite good. And Destiny, well, I think we've said all we need to say about Destiny.
What turned it around for Forza then? What was the difference?
Well, the opening 2 hours or so are just tutorials. It's like, I know how to drive a car. Like, not in reality. I don't know how to do that.
But in the confines of video games, I've driven so many cars.
I know how to do this. And the game structure, to begin with, is quite boring. It's like, you have to go on a road trip. So you have to drive somewhere, to drive somewhere else, to drive the car you want to drive. Like, this is a load of bollocks. But no, then you get cool cars and better events. So it's pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Yep.
There you go. 8 out of 10.
To be honest, when we streamed it, we did the start of the game pretty much. So I didn't get to see any of the cool stuff like when you race against planes and the like.
Yeah, there's only 5 of those events, which is a bit of a...
Are they the highlights that Dave seemed to think they were?
There's one where you race a train that's pretty good. The problem with the plane racing is that you never really see the planes,
A lot of the time they come, like, because I played the first one, which is in the demo, and a lot of the time the planes coming from behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not, the end of that race where they're head-to-head, that's really good.
That is cool.
Unless you've got vibration function turned on, you don't know they're coming, and you hear them at the very last second they go past, so...
The train one's good because you can always see it like next to you as you're driving alongside the track or whatever. So
aren't planes just better than cars at that because they don't have to follow the roads? Surely they win. Every
Yeah,
time.
but they have to turn.
Yeah, they do have there is a track that the plane is going on. It's not just flying
Well,
around
that's
going.
not fair, is it?
You know,
It's like Red Bull air racing.
Absolutely unfair.
Yeah. Although, while we're here talking about planes, you need to download a certain app. I've forgotten what it's called. It's called like Flight Mapper or some shit like that.
Right.
24/7. And it shows you the routes of every fucking flight in and out of every country in the world. And you can follow it, like it tells you what the name of the vessel is, where it's going. It shows you like a little line, little vector, and how long it is till it's landing, how long it's been since it took off.
I get freaked out by that.
And you
kind
can
of
point it into the sky. If you see a plane going overhead,
You can-
and it will tell you which one it is.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I only have to
Shit.
open up one of those interactive maps that shows you where people are tweeting around the world, and it just gives me the fear about how many people exist on this planet.
Well, yeah,
I'm not
there's-
sure I can cope with.
There's
planes
too
in
many.
the sky.
Like, I mean, people are at the moment are going, ha ha ha. You know, don't worry about all these warnings. I'm going to have my kids anyway.
Yep.
There are like massive overpopulation. It's happened. It's over. You know what I mean? So now it's going to get, it's going to be like a Stephen King novel. I'm going to be fine with it. So
when you meant warnings, I thought you meant safety to download the app or just general, not future progeny.
oh no, it was an
world-ending
interview with a guy
warnings.
in a big time scientist in the Guardian, and he's talking about overpopulation.
He's like, it's too late.
Well, he said something like, one of my junior research assistants said, I've just had a child. What should I teach him for the future? And the guy responded by saying, how to use a gun.
Jeez.
And that is why there's going to be no Steve Burns 2. We're just going to keep it as like 1. You know, there shouldn't have been a Chinatown 2. You know, the 2 Jakes didn't need that. It was rubbish. There shouldn't have been a Highlander 2.
Yeah.
You know, occasionally there are really good sequels, but
To be fair,
most of the time there's not.
you shouldn't really call your kid Steve Burns 2.
But people do that, though,
Yeah.
don't they?
Yeah, they do, but it's wrong.
Nah.
I mean, George Foreman is the exception that proves the rule, I think.
They're all called George, though, aren't they?
Yeah, even the girls,
Yeah.
like variations of George.
That's fine. Girls can be called George.
Yeah.
No, it's isn't it variation? Like Georgia, Georgina, isn't that what he's done?
No, I think they're all just called George.
Oh, they are.
It's like the UFC fighter, Rampage Jackson. I think his kid's actually called Rampage, but his daughter is called Paige.
Nice. That's awesome.
What about video game? Were we talking about video games?
I'm glad you're back
Yeah,
on
but
the
then you-
podcast.
then
This
you
is the
killed
kind of
the
stuff
world.
we've been missing. Just the most random facts that a podcast could hope for.
Don't worry about it.
Appreciate it.
It's not a random fact that the world's going to end.
No, but it's a random fact that Rampage Jackson named his daughter
This
Paige.
is true.
So there you are. Jim Trinker,
What?
you've been quiet again. I need you to talk about some video games, man.
What video games? I've been playing,
You've been playing
Shadow Mordor and that new Sherlock one.
Fuck
Frames of
Sherlock. We
Punishment.
want to hear about no.
Yeah.
We'll get to both. But Shadow Mordor first, I reckon, because
Shadow Mordor.
Yeah, Jim single-handedly
It
persuaded me
sounds-
to buy it.
it sounds hella cool.
It's good. It's really good. It's like an open world game that actually uses the open world to make a game, as opposed to an open world where you're just collecting pieces of plot, like some sort of narrative eating Pac-Man.
Nice.
That's most open world games don't give a shit about the open world. You're literally just collecting snippets of script. But
Yeah.
Mordor, the open world, is an actual thing that is the meat of the game, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. All the best moments in it are totally emergent. There is a scripted story, but it's by the by. It's pretty good, to be honest. but-
The stuff we showed off in that we did like a 30-minute video where you
Yeah.
showed off some cool stuff. Was that a fair representation of that game, or did you
I think so.
did like
Well, I
you
mean-
finish playing that and suddenly something ridiculous happened and
Well, I mean, we didn't. We only really scratched the surface of it. But yeah, I'd say it was a fair representation of it. Yeah. There's something that happens like about the midpoint in the game where, well, it's not really a spoiler. The game expands into a totally new area,
right?
which is a little bit bigger
Is
than
it
the
still
first
part
one.
of Mordor?
Yeah. And you're not expecting that. 'Cause-
I am now.
Well,
Yeah,
no.
jeez.
I wasn't expecting it anyway. Because like the world that you're given is quite big and certainly enough to carry a massive game. And you're like, right, this is cracking. Then it totally expands into this new area, and you get given a new ability which completely changes the kind of tenor of what you're doing. So it goes from it goes from taking out captains to recruiting your orc army. And I'll stop there. But yeah, it's amazing how the game kind of does this total gear change halfway through, and it's just fucking brilliant.
So there's a massive map, right? And it's all based on Mordor. But I'm thinking to the Lord of the Rings stuff in particular. I don't really know very much about Mordor at all. Like, what do they base that on? Because they're like in the films, they're in there for like
they've probably
5.5
looked
minutes.
at some maps and
well, it's probably quite volcanic.
I think they take a lot of shite from the Silmarillion, but the whole Lord of the Rings license is just neither here nor there. Because it is a game about cutting heads off more than it is about Lord of the Rings.
But they're orc heads, so there you are. That's your link.
In some ways, it totally shits on the license because you've got like Gollum's in the game, right? There's no reason for Gollum to be in the game whatsoever. He's literally just there so they can have a character there from the films. Because there's
and put him in the trailers, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like Gollum turns up in this because this is meant to be like a really southern region of Mordor that's never been on film or anything, and it's like a sort of a greener area of Mordor where Sauron feeds and trains his armies, right? And that's the gist of it. I don't know if it's based on anything that's been in the appendices or in previous books or anything, but that's the gist. So Gollum turns up in this area because your character has been possessed by the wraith of Celebrimbor, the ancient elven king.
I love that name so much.
It is. That's a lovely name, isn't it? The ancient elven king who forged the rings of power for Sauron, who was disguised as a good elf at the time. Right?
Wow.
Stay with me. And then Sauron, as we all know, forged the one ring of power to control them all.
I can already see the mad comments that's caused.
It's
good elf! A good elf!
What?
I'll have you know, Jim, that he wasn't a plainly good elf, and it's a wrong species.
So you're possessed by the spirit of the man who made the rings of power,
I thought it was an elf.
right?
Don't you do that.
Sorry, carry on. This is really unfair.
Or elf, or whatever.
There you are.
Right? And the idea is that this is set between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and Gollum has travelled there to find the ring maker because he thinks that the ring maker has the ring on him that he's lost,
right,
or is able to. I don't know. It's all very weird because
it's never really explained how Gollum knows where the ring is. But my feeling from reading and watching The Lord of the Rings wasn't that it was that kind of. I felt like he had a link to the ring that he kind of just followed. And
well, yeah, that's the thing. Like he innately knows where the ring is.
Not that
he's constantly calling to him.
That feels way too practical to go and try and find
the idea that he's pissed off. Like he's travelled like 1,500 miles, and bear in mind he's just a little skinny bloke. Like he's not got a car or anything. so he's fucked off. Like it's like me walking to fucking Shetland in search of a pie. And it's sort of they've crowbarred Gollum in, and it makes absolutely no sense.
Kind of sounds a little bit like in the Hobbit trilogy when Legolas turns up just so they can have Legolas in the trailers, and it's like you remember this guy from Lord of the Rings, and you like Lord of the Rings,
yeah.
Come and watch this. It's got Legolas in. He fires some arrows at people. This seems like the equivalent of that.
Yeah, and they obviously went to so much trouble to include like one of the shittest characters as well.
Oh, Gollum's great.
What?
Gollum's great.
No, I'm talking about Legolas.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Fuck Legolas. I like Gollum. I mean, Gollum's great in it, as he's great in everything.
Yeah.
But it's just no reason for him to be there whatsoever, and it makes no sense for him to be there.
I kind of get the sense that like attaching itself to the Middle-earth franchise wasn't what makes this game great.
It isn't at all. I mean, it provides the lore that gives you the sort of contextual excuse to go away and chop people's heads off and stuff.
Sure.
But it's fucking brilliant. It's really good. It's like basically a cross between Assassin's Creed and Arkham, really. And there's a little bit of Red Dead thrown in. Yeah, it's got all these brilliant elements from all these very different games, and somehow manages to be a lot more than the sum of its parts. And it's probably this year's biggest surprise, because I think everybody had written it off because of the license.
Yeah.
Strangely enough.
And I think when they initially demoed that Nemesis system, kind of how we were talking about Lords of the Fallen last week, actually, it's so difficult to appreciate that until it's your own thing.
It's a difficult thing to explain.
Yeah, I mean,
Miller had no idea,
Yeah.
did he? At E3,
he was outraged.
he was
by the
like,
idea
none of
it.
this makes any sense. And I presume when it's when it's in that short of time frame,
Yeah.
he was like, I think Miller described it as, I was walking around and I chopped a man's head off. And then another man came out and it was like WWE and he started having a go at me. So I killed him. And then another guy came out. It's like a Royal Rumble.
Yeah, he
But-
didn't understand why everyone had an intro. Yeah.
But I suppose as you progress through the game and onto different battlefields, people coming out makes perfect sense as if you fought them before.
Yeah, absolutely. But the Nemesis stuff is amazing. Like they remember how you killed them, or they remember how they killed you the last
And they
time.
change visually as a result of that. I
They
saw
do change
someone
visually,
describe it as Shadow of Mordor, the game in which you stab someone in the face so many times they have to put a bag over their head or something like that.
That is literally true. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Which is
Like I killed one
games.
captain by setting him on fire. He survived and came back, and you don't know whether or not they've survived. Like they might just turn up in battle. So I get into a fight with another captain. This other guy that I've already killed turns up, and he's like, "I survived. You burnt my face, and so I'm gonna kill you." And yeah. And he's got all the burn marks on his face, and he's really fucked off about it. And he's like,
It's not taking it very well.
yeah. And he's like, look, they won't even let me into the fucking co-op now. I've got this bag of my head. And
Which you can totally see if you watch someone else's game where that happens, you'd be like, "This is just getting in the way of what I was doing." But for
it
you,
totally
that's
isn't,
a link
because
back to
for you, that's like part of the I guess the story that you as a player are kind of creating, because you're I mean, it's one of the only games where that whole the common marketing spiel of like we want players to create their own stories, and it's usually just bollocks. But in this, it's actually sort of really does happen, albeit all the stories are about how you killed.
yeah. but the ways in which you did that might be different.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. But there is some personalization to it, and the first time that somebody comes back fucked off because of the way you killed them last time, and it wasn't a scripted thing how I'd killed them. It was just using the environment, using all the sort of environmental and emergent stuff that's there at your disposal, and yet having them be really specific about the way in which they were dispatched. That's really cool, and it's all smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of really easy, probably really basic stuff that they're doing to achieve that kind of illusion, but it fucking works, and it's so good. But yeah.
The killing system does make the assassin that you play sound like the Jacques Clouseau of killers, though. And it sounds like, that bit at the start of Austin Powers where Dr. Evil kills Will Ferrell, and he just keeps pressing the flamethrower a bit, and you hear Will Ferrell at the bottom, and he sends the assassins in, and you hear the bullets go off. He's like, doof, doof, doof. And you see Will Ferrell just go, "You shot me." And it's just like, when will these fuckers die? And you said you have no way of knowing when the heads come off as well. Like you
can't really control whether or not your character decapitates them as
Right,
well. And
yeah.
I think that's like a design decision, because
Otherwise, you just do it all the
otherwise
time.
you would just decapitate
Yeah.
them all the
Yeah,
time.
That's
I-
horror
You
movie
never have
rules.
those
Unless the head
moments.
comes off, he's coming back.
I asked Jim when we were playing it to stop and make sure he lopped the head off this orc we just killed, and he's like, I can't do that. But you know this, he might come back.
Yeah.
Just get rid of his. Yeah,
That would usually annoy me, but if it ties into a bigger system,
I think I'm
but
alright with it.
in upcoming space-based hide-and-seek game, there are moments where it has such incredible atmosphere, but it breaks its own kind of rules of the universe. Where at one point I killed someone, and then I went to pick up their gun, and when they dropped their gun, it didn't disappear or anything. And I was like, "I'll take that gun." I picked up it hit search on the body. It went 6 revolver bullets. Like, but I couldn't pick up the gun. And I was like, so I had to wait until the game went, "Here's your gun now, Steve." I was like,
Oh, yeah.
what the fuck is going on? But
That sounds
yeah,
a bit rubbish.
I mean, I shoot NPCs anyway in all video games once I've killed them, even if I know they're not coming back.
Just to make sure.
just to make sure.
Double tap.
Resident Evil rules, isn't it? Wait until the blood comes out from the body.
Exactly. Or burn them all.
All right.
When you said I kill all NPCs in video games, I thought you meant you wasn't going to clarify that they were bad guys. It's like Grand Theft Auto old lady walking down the street, just pop her as well.
Fuck them all. Like in Grand Theft Auto, I just play as myself.
Are you one of those guys that played Fallout 3 as just a psychopath?
Leave every town.
I would have played more of Fallout
outpost.
3, but I couldn't get on with it because of the stupid fucking. Well, I didn't like it. The VAT system.
Yeah.
It was like, I get it. It's like dice rolling. I just want to shoot someone in the head. Like, I figure that, if I've survived this long in the fucking wasteland, I'd probably know how to fire a gun.
Some dice rolling combat. I totally agree with. I mean, I love Fallout 3.
I don't think it's.
There's some dice rolling stuff, like Wasteland 2, for example. I complained about it in the review that the dice rolls just make no fucking sense whatsoever and just end up completely ruining combat for you. It's like there should not be any situation. I mean, realistically, I know it's an RPG system, but realistically, if you're standing next to somebody and you point a shotgun at their fucking face and it goes off and they're completely unscathed, that's not in any way realistic.
That's what I never really got. I mean, Fallout 3, I think one of the other things I loved the kind of setting, but I hated the fact I had to play on 360. And because, in the early days, it was quite buggy and performance-wise, it wasn't amazing. And then,
oh god, you played it before the big patch.
And so
New Vegas though.
And so after that came New Vegas, and I was more interested in New Vegas' setting and the guys who were making it. And I kind of, I actually remember it coming in, but it was deadline, and I think it actually came in on a Friday, and I had to go somewhere. Anyway, my housemate was playing it, and I came back after the weekend, and I was like, I watched him play it for about an hour, and all the game seemed to be was walk 5 steps, loading screen. That little fucking roulette wheel that you see. I was sat behind him for about 2 hours, and after I was like, Chris, I think I saw more of that fucking roulette nonsense than you shooting someone or looting or anything. And he went, yeah, well.
Yeah, was that in the, like, that might have been in New Vegas itself because you're constantly going between buildings?
Oh, it was just, it was on the strip.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, you know what, fuck this fucking noise. Like, if I can't walk into a building without a loading screen, imagine that happening in reality. Yeah. Imagine that. It'd be fucking bollocks. No one would go to work.
That's one thing that, like, Bethesda games in general need to sort out for the next one. Because, like, Skyrim comes out and it's meant to be on this fucking amazing new engine, which everyone knows is basically Gamebryo, but nobody wants to say anything because it'll hurt their feelings. And you still, you see an NPC go into a building and you hear a door noise and they just fade out of the fucking world. And you're like, for a series that's so rooted in like verisimilitude and realism, and you can pick up every object, and it's supposed to be like this sort of like macro and micro simulation of an entire continent. And you're like, but as soon as somebody goes through a fucking door, the entire illusion's shattered. It's like, guys, you need to do something to sort that. Just have them open a door and then disappear into
disappearing into doors is like Mega Drive shit. Yeah. That's like Moonwalker.
Like the door doesn't even fucking open. It's just like they touch the door, you hear the door opening, and the door doesn't open.
Same creak noise every time.
Away. And it's like it just starts making you think that this isn't actually supposed to be some kind of living world. This is like this is Skyrim of the damned. It's fucking purgatory. Like everyone's walking around going, you remember the last time you actually opened the door? No, does it not bother you? No, we've never thought about it.
I've been playing some Civilization Beyond Earth preview build. The game comes out the end of this month,
25th, something like that week.
Well, that game is a scary one to try and preview, just because it's so. I think the preview build is like
as brilliant as it genuinely does look. When we're actually playing some of it, it looks really impenetrable.
Yeah,
I've not played a Civ game since the Amiga. To be honest,
that'll be your issue. If you played Civ 5, it's really not.
Yeah.
And in fact,
it looks like a hexagon spreadsheet.
It's kind of what it is, really. But that makes it sound really boring. One of my favourite strategy games ever, the Crusader Kings series, is just a giant spreadsheet, and it's fucking brilliant as a result. But Beyond Earth plays in the early game, and I think quite a few people pointed this out in the kind of introduction video we did. plays an awful lot like Civ 5 in space. Like obviously, like the theme reflects the fact that you're on an alien planet. All the resources have been changed to be like, instead of, you know, crops, it's alien goo, you know, that kind of stuff. And that visually it looks very differently. But the start of that game, you're making almost exactly the same decisions.
Do you start on Earth?
No. You know, actually,
I know the title would seem to, you know, suggest that not, but I would have liked to have seen like almost the end of a tech Civ 5 run to get to space.
You create your spacecraft and like, actually, it's worth pointing out, when you do set up the game, it does show some differences here. You get to kind of kit out your expedition. So you pick your sponsor, which is pretty much your civilization, the people that are funding your trip. You pick the kind of speciality of your colonists, some extra cargo that you take with you, and what kind of spacecraft you're traveling on as well. And it all provides like a different start to the game depending on that. So there is a feeling that you have come from somewhere else and you brought things with you, which is important. But you then get to this alien planet, and it's running on the Civ 5 engine, and it feels like that. Except for the fact that I think one of the most important things about this game, and it's pretty much what I focused on in that video, is the way that the aliens on the planet work compared to the barbarians in Civ 5. So in Civ 5, when you met barbarians, they'd be near your starting locations, and they'd be freaking annoying because you're trying to expand and they get in your way, and you pretty much need to clear out their outposts and their units to be able to do that. You get some rewards for doing it. But they are just speed bumps, pretty much. That's all you really ever see them as. The aliens on this new planet beyond Earth act like a big giant faction, a big hive mind creature that you're kind of interacting with. And so it does some really cool stuff in the fact that when if you as the player start being really aggressive towards the aliens nearby, clearing out so you can expand, treating them exactly like you would the barbarians in Civ 5, the aliens on the entire planet start to react to humans differently, and not just you. So if you clear out a bunch of alien nests, kill loads of the nearby creatures, they'll start being more hostile to everyone, even the people that are going after this kind of harmony route, which is
it's like fusing with the planet.
Trying to embrace the alien life forms and work with them rather than against them. And it's an interesting way of thinking about them. And like that's what actually separates the early game completely, is the fact that you think more about the alien life forms than you do about trying to take out or work against or with the other nations, at least to start with, because you land there and immediately you're under threat, possibly.
But the difference is in like Civ 5 is that you would go and you'd find the barbarians, whereas now within 10, 15 turns, the aliens will come to you. And that's why I wanted to because I played Beyond Earth back in May at an event, and one of the very early things that you can build around your cities that you build is a protective barrier to stop them from coming in. Because if you don't, there's these two different types of aliens. There's like these storms guys who will swarm you. They're like
I think there's more than two. There's like
but like the two of the main ones are like the ones where they come from underground. They can pop up anywhere. They can pop up within your city, or they can pop up just on the perimeter. And if you don't get that border set up, then they can become a real problem as well.
Yeah, are you talking about siege worms? Is that
siege worms? That's the one. Sorry.
They are horrendous. So if you've upset the aliens, or if someone's upset the aliens, they can just walk straight into your starting city, and you can't really do much about it unless you've thought about some defenses well in advance. Which it's weird to think that you're fighting against the aliens and worrying more about them than what the other nations are doing at the start. But the way you do that does feel really similar to Civ 5. I think, the build that I've been playing is longer than one. I think you did 100 turns, right?
Yeah, I think mine was like 50, I think.
Oh, 50, so that is just real early game stuff. Well, as you move on, it starts to separate itself, and there's various win states, as every Civ game has, and these ones are separated somewhat by the affinity that your nation picks. And you can go with Purity, which is the Earth racists, and they want to make this alien planet like Earth, and they want to get rid of all the kind of... They want the vegetation to be the same. They don't want aliens because there aren't aliens on Earth. They want it to look like, I don't know, Newcastle or something. And that's pretty much how their entire game plan will move towards that. You've got Supremacy, which
they go around painting Union Jacks and all the cactuses and
exactly. It's unbelievable. You'd hate it, man. You'd absolutely hate it. And Supremacy, they just don't give a shit about any of that. They want to try and use whatever they can from alien tech or back home to try and make sure they're the dominant nation. Why you wouldn't always go with that kind of approach, I don't know.
Military option, always in Civ.
And
when you get the giant stompy robot, it's just like, see.
Game over.
Yeah.
Or the XCOM soldiers, man. You can get XCOM soldiers in Civ 5. And finally, you can go with Harmony, which I'm looking for, which is just the hippies. They want the alien world. They want to accept it and work with it and all that stuff.
The thing is, though, is with the win states now, is that they've changed it. It's not just like A, B, and C. They sort of combine ways as well. Because when I spoke to the guys, they said that within those win states, you can create a portal that can take you back to Earth, and within that, like you say, within the Supremacy or the Harmony ones, you can either go back to Earth and because once you evolve your tech,
it's like you go back and teach them the ways that you've learned,
or you can bring them to the new planet and then save them, bring a lot of people back to the new planet, or you go back to Earth and become rulers of Earth. They're like within those states.
And those aren't the free win states. Those are three different types.
Yeah, they're different types
from going after the portal tech.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that's where it starts to feel differently, and visually it looks a lot differently when you've picked an affinity. But I'm surprised how, like, reading the comments on that video we did, people weren't that impressed with how similar it was to Civ 5, which is.
See, I really enjoyed it when I played it. Like, again, I played it really early, but the problem was, like Jim, I'd never played a Civ game before. And then when I knew I was going on this trip to play it, I thought, oh, well, that's not good. I went out and I bought Civ 5, and I think that was why I might have enjoyed it a lot more.
You hadn't spent like 200 hours with Civ 5.
I managed to get like 50, 60 hours into Civ 5 before I went, and then it was like you say, it's a natural step up from Civ 5. So you easily fit into the system, so that might have been the reason. Yeah,
but I like playing it a lot, but I definitely see those complaints, and I've only I haven't even played a game through to completion yet. I'm not sure whether or not that's going to be possible in this build I've got, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, it does seem weird that you've got to wait until the late game until it really starts to feel like
it's always
new.
The way, isn't it? Yeah, you always sort of you're just building foundations.
Well, but like this didn't happen with Civ 4 to Civ 5 because 5 had this completely new approach to and looks and feels like a very different game immediately, whereas Beyond Earth feels like an expansion from that.
Right,
and that's perhaps a bit disappointing, but it's still pretty cool, man.
Yeah,
like playing Civ in space.
I was completely overwhelmed by the tech tree as well. Like, it's not a tech tree anymore; it's a tech web. Oh my god!
Yeah, I kept just.
He kept opening that text, because it kind of whooshes in and makes a noise. He kept doing it and going, "Look at this, Jim." Whoa! I'm busy.
It is way more intimidating to look at than actually use, though. It's all right once you think about it, but just when you zoom in and out and you see just all those different things that you can research towards. It's interesting that you can't trade tech in that game as well. You are limited to a certain kind of playstyle. You can't just be one of those guys that approaches every nation.
I never did that anyway.
Have some of this physics and give me
have some of this physics.
You have to research physics really early on when you begin on Beyond Earth, which is
it's Dave here.
Which is
so wait a minute. Interstellar travel,
I know,
and colonization requires you to understand the basic laws of physics.
But I imagine that what that represents is the fact that gravity, pretty big part of physics, will work differently on this new setup, and that changes how all those systems work.
But they'd already know that before you got
physics via fucking Danny Dyer. Have some of this physics.
You fucking slag.
Thermodynamics. Bleeding Nora.
Exactly. That's how I play Civ.
What, as Danny Dyer?
Yeah.
Right, mock it up.
Like when you go and speak to someone, that's how he turns up. He just bowls in. So what?
The character that represents my nation is actually Danny Dyer.
Actually, Brassers, can you go into the config files and replace all of the advisor speech with Danny Dyer quotes? I'd like you to do that by the end of the week, please. That'd
I can't believe it's been 9 years since them slags.
But yeah,
brilliant.
Anyone playing anything else? Brett, what have you been up to?
One game I can't talk about.
Well, that's not very useful, is it?
Which is
this is a podcast about talking about things.
Well, it's either that or boring FIFA stuff.
It's not embargoed. It just makes them feel very emotional.
Yeah,
can't quite bring myself.
Danny Dyer simulator gets very emotional. But yeah, or FIFA stuff, and I think FIFA's pretty boring to talk about, really, isn't it? Because I've
just talked about like strategy games.
Yeah, that's true. But people like strategy games. I like strategy games.
Can we pitch a game to Danny Dyer? Can we make that the project for the next
Absolute
podcast?
revenge thriller.
We call it. We could pitch a sci-fi game to Danny Dyer and just call it Time Slags.
Is that
Danny Dyer goes to the pub.
Yeah.
Someone buys him a drink. It's a new drink, and everyone's like, "Oh, this will put you on your ass, mate." He's like, "Nah, you fucking what, mate?" And he drinks it, and he goes to the toilet, and he pisses into the urinal, and it has a reaction that forces him into a different part of space and time, and it's like Quantum Leap
Called Dundee.
but he has to try and get back.
It's exactly the plot of the Bottom live stand-up tour, the 4th or 5th one.
Yep.
It's exactly that plot. So we just put Danny Dyer on on Bottom live.
Exactly.
wow?
He just turns up and he realises that no matter where he goes, he still talks differently from everyone as well.
Exactly. So yeah, time slags.
That must be like the worst thing about being Danny Dyer is the moment where you realise that no matter where you go and what you do, you're still Danny Dyer.
Danny Dyer's daughter is also called Danny. Did you know that?
Man, we are getting all sorts of.
I actually quite like Danny Dyer. I don't hate him like a lot of people do. I actually think his best work was in the director's...
Why do people hate him?
Because he's a fucking geezer, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's a lovable geezer.
Yeah, and all of his movies, most of his movies are fucking dross.
Yeah.
Do you know, but he was in one called Outlaw with Sean Bean, and it's one of the worst films I've ever seen. However, the director's commentary is one of the all-time great director's it's one of the all-time great statements.
Is it
people look
him
back
and
on
Sean
us?
Bean?
No, it's him and Nick Love, the director who did The Football Factory, and who was it that...
It was Nick who said, we won't be appreciated in our time.
Yeah, he said when The Godfather, he said, when Taxi Driver came out, that got fucking cunted as well, didn't it? And then he said, I think it was Mark Kermode who described them as when they were talking on this, they seemed to be in a state of advanced refreshment, which I thought was the best euphemism for them being tanked up I've ever heard. But yeah, he's compares it to The Godfather, Outlaw. Compares it to The Godfather, A Taxi Driver. There are a few funny lines in there, but it's just...
There's actually a YouTube video that cuts up all the best bits from the commentary and puts it together, so you need to
Outlaw
find that.
Commentary into YouTube, 10 solid minutes
Stop
of
listening
gold.
to this podcast
Yeah,
right now.
just get on there. Maybe we should cut in some of the statements from it.
So listen, the bottom line is this film got a fucking hostile reception when it came out. A lot of the press didn't like it and that. They thought it was fucking too violent. They thought it was glorifying violence. The maddest thing is they thought it was about a fucking country that doesn't exist. They're saying that the press was saying, oh, how can you fucking say that about this film? How can you say we live in a lawless country and there's nonsense running around, there's people running around stabbing each other? And you say, what fucking papers you reading, you dozy cunts?
No star. I've never seen no stars before. The fucking broadsheet cunt.
Honestly, once you start, you just can't. It's incredible.
Okay.
One of my favourite pastimes is using the Shaggers Twitter account to congratulate Danny O'Dwyer on moments from Danny Dyer's career.
Yeah.
And Danny O'Dwyer favourited one once. Brat was very upset about it. When I tweeted Danny O'Dwyer saying, "Mate, you was well good in Borstal, boy." Favourite.
So I met a bunch of Jim's friends from Scotland this weekend.
So did I.
And at one point during the weekend, I was on someone's shoulders whilst the rest of the group were chanting Shaggers.
Mm-hmm. Entirely my doing.
It was
brilliant.
It was, yeah.
That's bad.
I feel like you'd met up with them beforehand and
I hadn't
them on how to do
orchestrated
because the amount
they've
of
just picked up on that.
It was brutal.
Great. It was great. He was on somebody's shoulders and all these Scottish people in a circle.
That I'd only just met.
Shaggers, show us your dick, etc. Rat was fucking terrified, but then he also felt like a king.
Exactly.
So, it just became his name for the night because, I had my mates were coming up to me and going, "Fucking introduce me to Shaggers." Then, where's that Shaggers boy? There's a wee cunt. One.
That's why I had to get out.
Yeah.
I knew where it would go.
I feel like that night, when in the Harry Enfield sketch where he turns a teenager, I feel like Brad would gradually morph into his own ego, into his own alter ego and become the Shaggers. The more he gets told referred to as shaggers,
Oh,
he becomes...
that started happening.
Don't
on
you-
Saturday
Yeah.
night.
It has,
I
yeah.
dare suggest that. That is unbelievable.
It
Absolutely,
has.
going into the tube station.
But this, I can only tell you this didn't happen.
Way, shaggers!
Yeah.
Like,
I-
Chris, just
I've never, ever done that.
starts asking people to refer to him. He starts introducing himself as shaggers.
at the shag.
Yeah, yeah. My name's
Oi,
Chris,
oi.
but you can call me at the shaggers.
All right, so that was our chat about FIFA, the hit
Yeah.
football game in which you
Oi, oi.
play football.
You
with different
fucking
teams.
what, mate? You fucking what?
Talking about like Cockney accents, I've been playing a lot of that Sherlock Holmes game that just came out.
Oh shit! Yeah, I shut you down for that.
Crimes
in
and
excitement
Punishments. Yeah, I'm bringing
Shadow
it back
of
in because I
Mordor.
want to talk about it.
Absolutely,
It's
do it.
bloody good. It really is. And I think you've played
Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper. I like Jack the Ripper.
I do.
I feel like there's a select few people that understand that these games are good, and then everyone else is like, "Nah, come on."
It's
nah.
because they're so low budget. But what they do with the sort of the obvious little resources they have is really admirable. And every game that comes out, they get better. You know,
Admirable. I don't want a game that's admirable. I want a game that's good and fun to play.
it is. Well, they are good and fun.
Okay,
to play.
good.
Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper is actually really good, but it suffers from the same problem that all the Sherlock Holmes games, and arguably all long adventure games, do, where by the midpoint you don't actually remember what you're doing or why you're doing it, so you're just sort of completing objectives and piecing clues together in a sort of haze until sort of an hour toward the end where you sort of remember, oh shit, this is actually... Because there's entire sections of Jack the Ripper, and the one that came out after it, I think it was called... I can't
The
remember.
Testament.
The Testament to Sherlock Holmes, I say. There's entire sections of those games where you just go off on these tangents because, you know, you need to find out this, but before you can find that out, you need to do task X for cunt Y. And then it just branches and branches, and it's like, I think I described it in the review as like an impenetrable fractal sprawl of it, you know, just keep zooming in, and you just don't know where you started. This totally avoids that because instead of one long story, it's 6 separate, like little episodes, if you like, 6 separate stories. They're thematically linked, but they're not sort of plot linked. It's more like a box set than a film. So it's like, you know, the first case takes you like an hour and a half. Second one takes you 2 hours. So you're constantly getting that satisfaction of solving the case. You don't know if you have solved it properly, but you do reach a conclusion every few hours.
Oh shit! As in, you can get it wrong, or
you can get
it's
it
kind of
wrong.
like how The Wolf Among Us did that pretty well. I thought. Like
Yeah?
you could by the end of the episodes, you would have made choices,
Yeah.
and because it's a detective game, you're never really sure if you've made the right ones. You think you've got
Yeah.
a suspect lined up, but
Yeah, it's the same here, and it's really like because you go around collecting clues, and then you basically populate your deduction space with facts.
I beg your pardon.
So your deduction space is a representation of Sherlock's mind, like which is like individual neurons with pieces of information associated with them. It's really cool. And in previous games had this kind of, but it was like a clipboard with like 18th century post-its, and it's not anywhere near as cool.
You can't refer to that as a deduction space. Come on.
But like you put 2 pieces of information together, and it's like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to make some up because I can't remember, but it's like walks with a limp, owns a cane. Put those together, and the deduction you can make is guy's legs fucked. You know, that kind of thing. Obviously, a bit more complicated. But that's the
Sherlock's a
general
fucking
gist.
genius.
Yeah, Jesus.
And then the more of these you put together, you eventually you get the you get the chance to come to a conclusion, which then allows you to finger a suspect. Every time I say that, I burst out laughing.
I was actually going to remove that because I knew that someone in the comments would be like, "Bleh," but then I thought that's
That
me.
person was.
So I'm going to leave that in.
But gives you a chance to finger someone and
That was worse, man. Finger a suspect. Finger a suspect.
turn into the shaggers.
Shaggers
It
is
gives you a
real.
chance to imply somebody did a crime and then
With your finger.
decide their fate. And when you decide their fate, you don't just say, you can just go, right, fucking bang him up. I've got him bang to rights.
Jesus, man.
Don't you start.
Or if you want another variation, bang him in a cell. Or you can absolve them, and you can you meet up with them in Baker Street. And you're like, hey, come here. Look, I know you killed the cunt,
But you seem alright.
but he was a dickhead. So.
But do you want to go around behind the sheds and...
Listen,
So you can let him off.
you can be like, look,
Amazing. Best game.
you killed
game of the
him.
year.
You killed him. He was an arsehole, so on your way. So you know that you get to make that moral choice, and which kind of deviates from the whole Sherlock thing in a way, I guess. Because I mean, Sherlock did have a really sort of, I mean, whether or not you agreed with it, Sherlock Holmes has always had a pretty sort of, I don't know, firm moral compass. I mean, he does absolve people, and he does, you know, send people down. But there's never any wavering. Like, you know, Sherlock Holmes has already decided who's guilty and who isn't. Like when the case starts,
Isn't he? I'm not really big on the Sherlock Holmes thing, but apart from the games and what little I've seen of the movies and TV shows, but isn't he on the GAC all the time?
Opium.
Did I make that up?
Yeah.
So you know, I know he's a genius, but
When you were describing the game as like you felt like you were in a haze a lot of the time, or at least the earlier games, and then you finally come up with a conclusion, and it sort of makes sense. I feel like that works. That's just Sherlock.
That's just Sherlock.
Opium.
what in the new ones? What's he addicted to? If he is at all?
Well,
Is he-
it's
he's got
it's
painkillers
just
or some shit?
Opium, basically. He's got a weakness for opium. Calms him down.
Yeah. You saying about...
No.
And a heavy smoker as well. He describes certain cases as you know, certain things he has to think about as a 3-pipe problem, and he has to spend
That's
12 hours. But yeah, the great open secret about Sherlock Holmes is that he was a massive fucking cokehead, essentially, by the 18th century equivalent, which is great. They've not addressed that in the new one, really.
No,
They had him hiding out in a drug den, but they didn't show him just getting fucking wasted and stabbing.
drug den that he owned.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, the weird thing about it is that just having this havering choice between like guilty or not guilty, you know, that sort of deviates from Sherlock. But of course, the difference is that this is interactive, so you are actually playing the part of Sherlock. So
yeah, that you do make that choice whether to play as Sherlock or play as you playing Sherlock.
Exactly.
Evil Sherlock.
Exactly.
It's like Dante's Inferno. Did you play that fucking game?
No, I never did. No.
You could. I think you could. When you went through hell, you could absolve or permanently damn.
Yeah.
Like famous or infamous historical figures. I think Hitler was in there. You could send Hitler to heaven and go, sorry, Hitler.
It's been an awful
You've done
mistake.
enough time here. You know.
Yeah.
But
Served your time.
there were some bad dudes in that.
Did you make any mistakes in that game? Is that, or do you not know?
Like where you get the wrong person.
Yeah. I don't want to go into
Specifics, but
how you find out, but you know, it can be quite harrowing when you find out that you actually made a fuck up because it's sort of like you see the consequences.
All right.
Awesome. The long drop. See ya. So
Yeah.
what? I'm still rich.
So you're fucked, and it's like,
Who are you?
So Sherlock Holmes. Ha ha.
Jesus.
You fucking what, mate?
Danny Dyer as Sherlock Holmes.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Don't imagine it. Do it.
But that'll be. Yeah, but it's absolutely cracking game, and like
Does sound really good. But
so it's very very much evolved from the previous ones in lots of really
Yeah,
good
it
ways. It
sounds-
still looks like shit, but it's like.
But not as bad.
It's quite
before.
fun. Yeah, it's not as bad. It's quite funny that they made a big thing about they advertised. They made a big thing in the marketing about it being an Unreal Engine 3 powered game. You're like, it's 2014.
But that moral thing where you say you can get it wrong, it doesn't do the LA Noire thing where you find out you got the wrong person and the guy bollocks you saying, you silly cunt, you got this wrong. And then the next day goes, you're right, Jim. Like, it doesn't do that thing
No,
where
no.
it's the...
Somebody asked me in the comments if it was anything like LA Noire, and it's like, no. I mean, because it's not shit, mainly, and things actually make sense. But it's amazing. Like, you can cock up a deduction really early on and get a conclusion that's totally off the mark. Like, and I found that you could play with the deductions to get different, conclusions coming up and stuff. So, but yeah, there's certain deductions you can make where there is like an amount of guesswork. It's like it's not completely like binary scripted that you got these two pieces of information and these two deductions and you have to decide which one is the most logical. like, because the other thing that feeds into that is that you pick up documents and when you're interviewing people, you hear like little fragments of speech that don't make it's their way overtly into that deduction board system, but you've been told, so you've got them in your head as the player, which can inform your decision as to which things are most likely. So that there's a few things going on. Like there's the actual, the actual scripted in a software sense, scripted stuff that makes up the deductions that become available to you. But to go with that, you've got to actually engage your brain and remember what you've been told and what you've read.
It sounds excellent.
Really,
it also
really
sounds like a low budget game shouldn't be able to map out that many choices.
I think this is like their 8th game, including a DS one. But I think they've been making these games for so long that like most of the sort of game bullshit they've got down pat, and now they're able to expand into right. Well, how do we make this actually really good? So I mean, it's frightening how such a. I mean, it's obviously really low budget. Like you just take one look at it and it was made like on a fucking sixpence. But they're doing stuff in that game that a fucking like massive $100 million production like L.A. Noire just completely failed to do, and they had really similar goals as well. They totally fucked it. So if Frogwares made L.A. Noire, it would have been better.
Wouldn't have had that weird face tech though.
No, yeah, that's the other reason it's better than L.A. Noire is because
it doesn't have that weird face tech.
Well, a character can open their mouth and it doesn't look like they've got like a fucking weird fucked up vagina for a throat. So, honestly, fuck L.A. Noire.
I'll be putting that into the review when I get back to my desk.
Well, it's like the plus and minuses, plus no vagina throat.
Exactly. I feel this is an important point we didn't quite get to in the review.
All right, cool. So, vagina throats, always a good place to end video game discussion on. Should we move on to a few quick questions before we?
Yeah.
Is there a vagina throat question?
Thing? There isn't. No, but I'm sure there will be next week.
Starsole, shouldn't there?
We've got Jenny M asks, is this current boom of local multiplayer games a flash in the pan, or do you think this trend will continue to evolve and grow? And I imagine by that we're talking the Gang Beast, the Nidhogg, the Towerfall Ascension multiplayer games.
You are a Gang Beast.
Which are fucking brilliant. And there does seem to be a whole resurgence of local multiplayer games.
To a point, it's never going to boom to the level of like a Call of Duty with local multiplayer only. It has a ceiling now because online multiplayer is the big thing, and local multiplayer will never overtake it. There'll always be a place for local, but it's not convenient.
But did it ever go away? Like,
yeah,
I mean, local multiplayer has always been. And always will be, as you say, it'll be dictated by how many people are in your house. Like that doesn't fluctuate because now you can plug in.
I think there's been a few like bigger examples recently of games that are just aiming for local multiplayer, which not many can afford to do because it's freaking hard.
But if you go to any university house or shared house in the world, and anyone that's into video games probably has a copy of FIFA and probably plays FIFA with the guys who live with them. Yeah,
FIFA, Tekken, Mario Kart, all those games, they will be played locally.
Yeah, but I suppose what you're saying is games that eschew a kind of local, an online kind of thing and want...
It's weird because EGX this weekend, like local multiplayer games are so freaking popular there. Like like Gang Beasts, as at both times I've seen it at shows, it's had a single screen, a banner that says Gang Beasts on, and then about 80 people trying to stand around it and all grinning and like laughing at what's going on. And it's amazing to see that there. But like I love Gang Beasts, and I've been able to play it myself like 4 times, and that's helped largely by the fact that I work in an office with video games people.
That's the thing. Local multiplayer basically has 3 audiences, doesn't it? Like kids on summer holiday, students, as you said, and fucking full-time games journalists who work in an office with loads of other games journalists.
They are all actually have the same mental age as well.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, kids on summer holiday with their fucking like WWE posters and shit.
And it's a tough one to sell as well because Gang Beasts is in early access at the moment. We've just been picked up by Double Fine and everything. That game is, I believe, $20 in early access now. So it's not finished, and you're paying that much money for a game that how often can
You can
everyone play
play it.
that? Obviously, there's going to be certain examples that fit, and that's why you don't get that many games that manage to just focus on local multiplayer. I think, and yeah, I want to see more of that because they are some of the most fun things that I've played in the last 2 years.
But the other problem is, that we were talking about this about like expos and stuff. That will be the best place for those games. Is like expos have become the new place, the new arcade. In that everyone who goes to an expo, the people who go to just play Tekken, Game Beats for winner stays on. They'll go to and they'll own the stand.
Went there just to watch other people play Smash Brothers, and that was all they did for the weekend, and that's great. But how does that exist outside of those expos?
Yeah, exactly. There's no money being made in that regard. Like just someone turning up.
You got to have friends,
staying.
You got to have
Maybe
friends.
that's my issue.
What was that? That game, the fucking Bionic Arm, Bionic Commando. Not talking about the 3D fucking
The sausage arm one.
bullshit.
The Xbox Live Arcade one, the side scroller.
The XBLA one.
Rearmed?
Rearmed, that's the one. Right. So I remember when that came out and me and my mates played that all the time because like the competitive local multiplayer on that is fantastic. And there was always talk of a sequel, and it was suggested in a few places that the sequel would have online multiplayer. And we were just like fucking waiting for that because it's like, I don't want to fucking look at you people. We were only ever meeting up to play Rearmed, right? And then it came out, and you go onto the store page and it says online functionality, fucking leaderboards, and that was possibly the worst day of my life. So, for people like me who only begrudgingly see their friends to play Bionic Commando Rearmed, I think
Those fucking pigs.
This whole local multiplayer revolution is.
I prefer local multiplayer.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. It's just how feasible is it to do it all the time? Online multiplayer is successful because
it's feasible for us because that's kind of our job. But yeah, be a student. There you go. Re-enroll.
Spend 30 grand to play PES local multiplayer.
But I guess
that's the dream. What are you talking about?
I guess to answer the question, like whether or not that we'll see more of it, I think maybe the reason it's become feasible to release local multiplayer games is helped somewhat by YouTubers, because watching people play Gang Beasts is almost as fun. And some of these, if you like PewDiePie plays Gang Beasts, and it will sell a certain amount of copies just because PewDiePie played it in the first place. And I guess that maybe helps get those games out there to people that wouldn't see them.
It's probably
otherwise.
also helped by the rampant overpopulation that's going to lead to the downfall.
Wow,
of civilization.
local multiplayer games are fun. Don't bring us down.
Listen,
with that,
I just
chat.
All I'm saying is that in about 50 years' time, someone's going to be strolling the fucking wasteland, and they're going to find like an iPod or something. Yeah, and I'll be like, what's this technology?
People used to.
And they're going to listen to.
like this.
And then I'll be exalted. I'll be like, there was one man who knew. He knew, and then they'll come and find me. I'll be living in a fucking temple. So it'll be like Star Wars. But I won't be killed by like Darth Vader, because what a load of shit. What a load of shit.
Do you see yourself in a post-apocalyptic world living in a temple?
Well, I mean, I seem to be the only one planning for it. Although one of my friends legitimately has about 10,000 bottle caps.
The temple is Edinburgh Castle.
Yeah.
That's quite...
Seriously, in his fucking, in his garage, he's like, for some reason I just started collecting bottle caps. He's probably played Fallout. I'm like, you are a bottle cap billionaire. You know that. You're going to be worth so much
this
cash.
This is ridiculous up until it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why
exactly.
Right.
No, I'm not going to
Like
say
50 years in the future, it's Edinburgh Castle, but, sea levels are rising. It's now the island paradise of Burnstopia.
Exactly. By Sinopolis, the rule of law, whatever mood I'm in that day. Fucking A. The pastor's bay, just get away with that.
That's assuming that Edinburgh Castle hasn't split open to let the nuclear missiles out.
To reveal a giant statue of salmon.
You, like the actual, like Trident's just a distraction. The actual nuclear deterrent is fucking underneath Castle Rock in Edinburgh. They keep going, why it used to be an active volcano, it's dormant now. It's dormant because they scooped out all the magma and put all the fucking world's nuclear weapons in.
So exactly. And if you were like fucking Notch, see, this is what, Notch made Minecraft, that's a fantastic achievement. But he seems like such a boring right?
Wow.
Do you know what? It's like, I just, there's a lot of stress in Minecraft. It is something far bigger than you probably ever thought it would be. What this annoys me about lottery winners as well.
Yeah.
Okay, is they're like, I won 48 million.
Where's the jet skis?
But I'm not going to change. If I was Notch, I would buy that fucking place. I'd be like, get my fucking I'll be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'd ride a helicopter everywhere and have a little winch attached to it where I just pick people up and drop them off in the fucking sea. And I have some of that.
Do you know what he's actually doing?
What?
He's just messing around with game jams.
Oh, fuck.
You don't need $1.7 billion to do that. You don't need that money. I need that money, okay? Because I've got cool shit planned.
Can you imagine the video gamer jet skis? That's it. Just jet skis. Buy all jet skis and then fucking buy an island and then just ride around in jet skis.
I'd buy the licenses for Pez. So Pez would have all the FIFA licensing. And then I'd be like, oh no, FIFA fanboys. Cry your tears. Cry. But, you know, more power to you, Notch. Whatever you want to do, champ, it's your life.
Call them a boring.
Or just buy EA and bulldoze it into the sea.
Or just push the Canada cow.
Just make it.
Chris Williams asks, will EGX moving away from Earl's Court, and I guess you mean moving away from London in general here, kill off any game show in the UK?
No.
It's still in the UK.
Mm-hmm. So the main EGX show is moving to
Birmingham. It's not moving to Spain.
Whereas Rezzed is now coming down to Tobacco Dock.
What's that?
A building in London.
Where you get your cheap fags, mate.
So his question's asking will that kill off any game show in the UK, but there's still two game shows in the UK.
EGX, the one that has been in London for the last few years, is the bigger of the two. Rezzed tends to focus more on PC games and indie games, whereas EGX...
Brat's in his fucking element now because he doesn't have to go far to play all those lovely.
I prefer Rezzed,
but Birmingham,
miles. Rezzed is great,
but Birmingham is still in the UK, so
yeah, but it's not.
But it's not.
Do you know what I mean?
It's 20 years ago in the UK.
Have you been to Birmingham?
Yeah,
I don't want to offend
for a
anyone
Villa
that
match.
fucking lives there, but it's a shithole.
Yeah,
honestly, again, if I had the Notch money. I'd probably rebuild that.
I was about to say, you'd just renovate Birmingham.
I'd have a gigantic digger, and it'd obviously have to be quite big.
For Spaghetti Junction alone.
And it would come in and it would just grab Birmingham, all of it, and it would just fucking move it into
Villa
the sea,
Park.
just leave it.
Villa Park's lovely.
Villa Park, fuck off.
Villa Park's lovely.
Only if they keep on having the semi-finals of the FA Cup there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sorry, what were we talking about?
So,
EGX,
no, is the short answer. The long answer...
Will you guys travel... I guess you didn't go to EGX this
I didn't travel to Earl's Court.
Would you travel to Birmingham, Jim, to go to EGX?
No.
I guess that's what he's asking, is how many people are going to have that opinion, or how many people are going to travel?
I wouldn't travel to Birmingham if my mum was there on fire and had me to stamp it out.
Yeah, pretty much. Although, in Birmingham, nah, hated it. Hated it every time I've been there. Sorry.
Jeez. Okay, so...
Look, I mean, it's fun to be disparaging about Birmingham because it's a shithole. But that aside... it's not going to ruin EGX. EGX is going to be huge wherever it happens, wherever it is. But I think the one thing it is going to decimate, if not completely wipe out, is the social stuff that's been brewing around EGX for the last few years. That's what I'm going to miss because. I've been coming down to London for EGX before I lived here for the last 5 years. You see the same faces every year. It feels like a big reunion with all your mates. This year, all my friends from Scotland came down that I haven't seen most of them since I moved here, and it was a nice occasion where you get to just see people, and that was the great thing about it. I can't be arsed with expos like fucking. Queuing for 45 minutes for a 10-minute show of Assassin's Creed.
That's not what that show has to be about.
No, that's fine.
I spent the whole time upstairs playing loads of new games.
Here we go.
You didn't queue for anything.
No, that's fine. That's what you get out of it. I get nothing out of it. That's what I'm saying. But no, the actual expo itself, I couldn't give a toss about it. But the stuff around it, I really am going to miss.
So we just need to arrange a piss up then, basically.
But in Birmingham.
No, not in Birmingham. No, just keep in London. Don't worry about the games. What we're basically saying is we don't care about the games. We just care about the piss up afterwards.
If the same people could be convinced just to come down, we could still have all the social stuff in London just while EGX is happening elsewhere. Because nobody comes down for the fucking games.
We'll have it in the VideoGamer office.
You mean from Scotland? Well, as in, none of your mates come down for the games because a lot of people travel to go to EGX to look at new games. I think that's part of its thing.
Can you imagine getting on a train for 400 miles to get a 10-minute shot of Evil Within?
That's not what it has to be about. It's
you
not just it.
I wouldn't do it.
It's the reason I prefer Rez. There's loads of cool games I hadn't seen before. There's more to it than just the Assassin's Creeds and the Far Cries that you have to queue.
I know that.
Yeah, but most people who want to see stuff probably want to see that sort of shit, don't they?
The vast majority will queue up to see the ones with the big posters, and that they won't go to the indie
the
corner.
the reason that you don't have to queue to play the games you like to play is that nobody else wants to play them. I'm talking about the majority. And people do travel
Jesus
hundreds and
Christ, I hate
hundreds of
you guys.
miles to get 10 minutes on a game that they've already decided to buy.
Gamescom,
in most cases.
last year when I went and I had press passes to Titanfall.
Mhm.
I'm fairly certain, given that there were about 40 million people on the show floor queuing for it,
That
if
shows-
I'd have come onto like a balcony and held out these 2 press passes and says, which of you would like these? And they'd have got everyone got a me. I could have made them do anything. It'd be like in Conan when James L. Jones, he gets rid of the riddle of steel. He says, now it's about people. And he points to that beautiful woman. He says, jump off. She just jumps off, kills herself. And he's like, there you go, Conan. I'm fucking stoppable. That would have been it. So people want to see fucking hot new AAA. You know what I mean? They want to play.
They want to see AAA games jump off of buildings.
Exactly. Maybe next year at E3, press passes, then onto the show floor. Come with me, minions. Amazing. Now fight this guy to the death.
You just created the Hunger Games of E3.
I played one of big game, I guess. One of the games that's on the main part of the show floor at EGX, and it was Splatoon. And that game is one that I've been trying to get excited about since it was revealed, because it was revealed in such a
Oh yeah,
ridiculous
you were
Nintendo
really
way.
championing that when it was first
It
shown.
was doing new stuff, and it seemed interesting. I played it, and I imagine that you can play with the Wii Pro controller and whatever, but on this demo, you were playing with the gamepad. You look left and right with your thumbstick, but you aim up and down by moving the gamepad itself.
Oh.
In a fast-paced shooter, that's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen.
With 2 thumbsticks
And
as well.
You win the game mode we were playing. You win by having the majority of the map covered with your team's ink. But that's only counted by the ink that lands on the floor. So you spend an awful lot of that game pointing your gamepad down, aiming at the floor, and holding down your trigger. In fact, you never let go of the trigger. I don't even know why there is a trigger. You may as well just constantly be firing. And the game is disappointing. Like, fuck. I was expecting like cool Nintendo shit, and I got a game about like, I don't know, waving my gamepad around and feeling like a bit of a moron.
I once queued at PlayStation Experience, which was also at Old School many years ago, to play Resident Evil Outbreak, or Biohazard Network as it was then. And I was like, yes, I have queued. I'm getting to play it. It was the worst fucking thing I've ever played. It was just, this is a game called Biohazard Network that launched in Europe with no network functionality.
Yeah, yet they had a massive adapter in the back of the PS2. didn't you?
Shit, you've just reminded me of one of my favourite things about this year's show, Bloodborne. You queued up for that game, massive queue as you'd expect, but it wasn't a timer thing. You just got one life, which is the most like Souls-like thing I've ever heard.
Great.
So you could queue up for like, I don't know how long the queues ended up becoming, maybe like an hour. I don't really know, and like die on one of the first couple of minions. And
Well,
that's like, right,
You learned your lesson, didn't you?
good job.
Well, at least the queue moves
Welcome to
quickly.
Bloodborne.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. It's
But what if someone
incredibly cool.
one broke the whole thing?
I think, was it like 4 people managed to do it or something?
they
4
get-
people managed to complete the demo.
To get
Right.
gifts.
Or maybe that's just one of those rumours that was flying around. Like, my mate completed Bloodborne,
Yeah.
1 life. So,
Shit.
Mate, I did it in 3 minutes.
which, like, if the queue hadn't been so freaking intimidating, that was the one that I really wanted to play. I was like, yeah, this is my time. I could
time.
do this.
Didn't you just
my time.
walk in and say, the shaggers is here?
Yeah,
I've never
on
walked in
Jim's
anywhere.
shoulders while everyone
Exactly.
chanting shaggers at you.
Jesus Christ.
Shaggers.
All right.
Shout your cock.
Wow. Okay. Let's go with one last question. Have you played Evil Within yet?
Yeah,
We'll talk
fucking
about
loads of it.
Okay, Cyber Eagle asks, do you think the Evil Within will have a good balance of action and horror, or will it just be a zombie shooter? That can be our last question.
Well,
Shadows of the Dam.
Interesting
2.
question.
it's not Shadows of the Dam 2.
Always
Trust me,
him up.
I played Shadows of the Dam. I mean, that was the most ridiculous game I've ever played.
It's a great game.
So, yeah, the way I've been describing Evil Within, it plays a little bit like the Resident Evil remake on GameCube, but it has the mechanics and looks of kind of Resident Evil 4. So the over-the-shoulder, the camera pulls in when you draw the gun, all that sort of shit. However, ammunition is scarce. It's best to kind of try and avoid all contact and combat when you can. There are certain enemies you can't kill, and in fact, shooting them brings them closer towards you, and they kill you in one hit. So you have to use the you get like a crossbow, which has different types of ammunition in it, and that obviously does damage against different foes, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, mainly it seemed to be a horror adventure game where sometimes, if it warranted it, you shot stuff.
Okay.
But not the other way around.
I think that's what we wanted here, to be honest.
There you go.
That's good.
There you go.
Okay, I'll wrap it up for the questions. One last thing about the podcast competition. Sorry, we've been a little bit delayed on this because there's just been all the previews and
just, you know, it's almost like it's getting to the point where every fucking stupid bastard publisher wants to release every game within literally 5 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know,
so we'll be sorting out the podcast competition from our last podcast competition. We'll be announcing the winner later on today or tomorrow.
the winner is
me.
No, that's not true.
No, the winner is
Danny
Dyer for Time Slags.
We'd like to send you a free video game.
Can we
up to £50.
Can we go and sketch out a rough idea of Time Slags? It'd be like, where in the world is Carmen San Diego? But with
like time slags, just like blue neon logo, like 45-degree angle across the bottom. Danny Dyer standing out that with a fucking gun, and behind him there's just this really sort of ominous looking cityscape. And to the left, you see
won't the urinal be there somewhere?
In the background on the side of the road. Welcome to Dundee.
But at the top, it's got to be the bad guy's eyes as well. Whoever that is, like nameless
like
bad
flashback.
Yeah.
Okay, so this month's competition is going to be, as Steve just mentioned, October is full to the brim with video games, big video games, lots of them, too many of them.
Too many. Too
And
many.
Some of them might get lost in all that noise, and we at VideoGamer.com are worried about that happening. So, for this competition, we'd like you to come up with an aggressive marketing campaign for Power Rangers Super Mega Force, which releases on Nintendo 3DS on October 28th. We're worried...
The Nintendo what?
Nintendo 3DS.
Missed out the D there.
Yeah, he did.
It's getting released at the end of this month. We're worried that it's going to get lost. People aren't talking about it enough. People are talking about Alien Isolation.
Yeah.
Where's the
I
Super
haven't
Mega
been
Force?
talking about Alien Isolation.
No one in here's been talking about it, Bratters. I don't know what you're talking
I don't know
about.
why I pointed at you like that then, Steve.
I've
Sorry.
not said a
We didn't know you
single-
pointed at him. It's
I've
a
been
radio
talk-
show. I don't know why you're saying you pointed.
I've been talking about big budget space hide and seek.
Oh, shit. I always get those two mixed up.
Yeah. I mean, they are quite similar.
So,
He was talking about the Panto this year.
Exactly,
He's
yeah.
behind you, Panto, coming this
Exactly.
Christmas.
Steve McFadden.
if you'd like to enter this competition, there's going to be a forum thread on the site which you can go and have a look at. Put something in there, something visual that we can mess around with and show off later on. And if we like your aggressive marketing campaign for Power Rangers Super Mega Force the most, you win a video game up to the value of £50.
You could win
Shop2.net.
Power Rangers.
You could, in fact, win Power Rangers Super Mega Force. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I mean, I don't know why you'd want to.
I mean, well, that's what our
Well,
audience
so
are going to have
it doesn't
to
get-
tell you.
yeah, so it
They're
doesn't
gonna
get
have to
lost.
explain why that game is worth your attention.
I would imagine a version of Power Rangers where every Zord is a different animal's penis. And they all combine together into a Megazord that's just this massive fucking walloper.
Does anyone actually know anything about Super Mega Force?
No, the last time I
Danny Dyer is Zord.
You're about to say you
Yeah.
played a Power Ranger game.
no, the last time I knew anything about Power Rangers, I was pretty much the target age for most of the on the planet. So
Fucking hell, Jim. Whoa.
I gotta say,
Unbelievable.
Was you an adorable child, Burns, as well? Was
yeah,
you-
a very good-looking child,
Yeah.
great taste in cardigans.
Did you write letters in as well?
No. After Lorraine Kelly dissed me, I just kind of turned into the man I am today.
Yeah.
That'll do it for this.
No, that's right, we've still to send
weeks.
a drone strike to Tayport because of that.
Video Gamer UK podcast. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you to my co-hosts, Stephen Burns, Brett Phipps, and Jim Trinker. Goodbye.